Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today.
Is something I learned from the meetup from a guy who did it remotely one time, is to pull the equity out and buy the next property. And so that is my plan, is once I do that, pull out the equity, and I'm either going to do one or two things. I have another piece of land down in Central Florida in a community that has golf and boating. So I'm either going to build that house as a vacation rental or buy something in the Lakeland area where I am as a rental.
Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier back with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we interview real estate investors from beginners to billionaires, where we believe investing in multifamily real estate is one of the best asset classes in real estate. However, on many of the shows and programs, I've had guests on, affiliates on, who've shown me some other twist or angle in real estate where I learned something on every show. So although my pedigree is multifamily, sit tight, strap in, and get ready, because we're going to learn something on this show. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce my guest to you today. I've been back here in Massachusetts. You can notice I probably lost my tan. Been back here since June 2025, working on a project. And I met this gentleman at one of the meetups that I actually hosted. I was asked to go out and talk. And this gentleman presented himself, really interesting guy. We chatted out in the parking lot after. I says, you know what? You really got a great story here. Let's get you on the show. And he agreed. So with no further ado, today's guest on the show today is a rare blend of blue-collar grit, real-world experience, and genuine people skills. Our guest is a licensed master electrician since 1998, a building and maintenance professional since 1991, and a full-time real estate agent in Florida since 2019. Our guest, with decades of experience working on homes both inside and out, brings a perspective of real estate that few agents can match. But what truly sets this gentleman apart is his technical know-how, his ability to navigate life's most delicate transactions with empathy and understanding. Having personally experienced real estate issues, divorce, and all the complexities that make deals more than just paperwork, he connects with his clients on a level that goes beyond just business. He knows how to guide people through transactions while protecting their best interests. Because of his trades background, our guest has a sharp eye for detail that helps him identify other issues that some realtors may miss. He understands constructions, operating systems, and the maintenance from both inside and out, giving his clients an edge when it comes to making sound real estate investments, estimating costs, and avoiding costly surprises. His story is proof that success in real estate doesn't come from theory alone. It comes from experience, resilience, and the ability to truly understand people. He embodies what it means to serve with integrity while building a business designed to last. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate rock stars, peeps, and professionals, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show today master electrician, licensed realtor in Florida, and real estate investor, Mr. Michael Boothby. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. That was a great introduction, and I'm truly humbled to be on here with you. A quick aside is, when I started going to those meetups, and this was a number of years ago, you were actually the first speaker from Aruba at the old Hangover Pub, I believe it was called, in Worcester. And it was really a great story listening to you, and and help just ignite some of the juices for real estate that I've loved for so many years.
I'm honored to hear that. And that, what was it? Property and Pints. That's what it was
Pints
called.
and properties, yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
back then it
Yep,
was called Pints and Properties, and now
yep.
it's all Candor and their massive conglomerate monopoly of all these meetups, which are fantastic. If you're in Massachusetts, check out Candor and get to some of these meetups. I'm honored by you remembering that because I actually had a lot of fun on that, and some of our current clients now saw that episode, and at the end when we did the Q&A session and all that, there are clients, and actually Ryan Emmerich and his partner Matt Davis, we have a Monday afternoon facilities call where we talk about their properties and work out some of the issues. So thanks for acknowledging that. And it now I got to turn it back. This is all about you. So we're going to learn about your story today. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to get started, Mike.
Okay, great. So I started in high school. I worked at a diner part-time, and I also picked up a second job for a carpenter. And when I got out of high school, deciding what I wanted to do for college, and that wasn't in the cards. So, long story short, I went to Worcester Tech, which is now the parking lot for Worcester Vogue, and I literally just went up and down with my eyes closed and said, "I'm going to be an electrician." And that's how it happened. And I got a job at the local factory and did my apprenticeship and learned all the other trades because I was the kid of the shop, and so I was everybody's helper, the plumbers, the pipe fitters, the riggers, and learned all sorts of great trades. And one of the plumbers was actually owned a bunch of multifamilies in town, my hometown of Douglas. And I was always interested in what he was doing, but I never had the guidance or the gumption to pull the trigger like a lot of these young guys we see at the meetups who are just absolutely crushing it, you know. So, through the years, started my own business. We picked up some property managers as clients. And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of work for property managers over the years, and I've seen the best of the best. I worked for a fantastic one that managed, I want to say, around 3,000 units out in the Franklin area. And they were great to work with. They were great with their tenants. They were great with their landlords. And they really showed what customer service and how important the landlord tenant relationship is. And I learned a lot from them and was always interested in property management and real estate. And when I moved to Florida in 2017, as you get older, stuff hurts and, the back hurts, the shoulders hurt. And I thought I would like real estate. So I got my license, and it turns out I don't like it. I love it. So, yeah, real estate and property management have been a passion of mine for years. And actually, today I picked up my first property management client. So that's
as
exciting.
as a realtor?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you actually answered the question that I was going to ask. So let me just recap all that. You
Yeah.
started out in the trades, you threw a dart.
Yep.
As shocking as that is, you
Yep.
ended up as an electrician and now a master electrician. You worked for a bunch of clients. Some of these were property managers. And was that like the first like connection to real estate? You mentioned that there was a plumber in the trade. So what was that story like when you used to sit with that plumber? Like most of the
So
time when people first get introduced to real estate, it's like they're talking to an alien from another planet. So what was your experience like first hearing about real estate from your buddy the plumber?
I went to school with his kids, and we worked together at the shop, so we took break together and all that. And I would hear the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a landlord. He had some really good tenants, and he had some really bad ones. And but it always intrigued me, how he was, working this job, his W-2 job, and, he had his health benefits through there, but he also had this other stream of revenue that allowed him and his family, a lifestyle and to grow wealth for the family, that really was pretty cool.
Interesting. So, how did that kind of, you know, hearing this, like, I'm trying to dig deeper here
Yep,
because, you hear about these things and you say, wow, maybe for them or maybe on TV, but me? Could that be me? So
exactly.
what was it like? What was that moment like when the spark lit on you and said, wait, this real estate, maybe I could do this? What was that moment?
So that moment didn't come from many, many years later. The problem when I was younger, I bought my house at 22, 23, somewhere in there. But I had the tunnel vision on, Brian. The you go to the bank, you save 20%, you buy your house, and you pay down your mortgage, and that's that. I didn't understand how the real estate journey um, really went. And then, fast forward a number of years, and we ended up with in Florida, and I've learned more over the years. And I had a client who he owns a multi-unit building, eight, 17, 18 units, something like that. And he looked for it. I listened to his story. He looked for it for 2 years, I believe, when he moved back from California. And he just didn't want any building. He wanted a certain building. He wanted, he wanted certain things. And so I would listen to him. And he was one of the few people I allowed in my business to, okay, you're smart enough with the tools, you can be my helper to save yourself some money. So he would work with me on jobs at his building, to save himself some money. So we became friendly over the years. And one thing he always said to me is mindset. He always talked about mindset and how he came from a very modest upbringing as well. And he always said he had a friend who said, "I can't afford that." And he goes, "That's not what to say. It's how can I afford it?" And that was the aha moment. I'm like, I'm looking at this all wrong. And it was almost life changing, And when we get into the deep dive, that will kind of go into the property that we talk about, is kind of that between talking with my friend there and going to the meetups, actually learning from these people how to invest in real estate and knowing you don't need $100,000 in the bank to start investing in real estate. And so that was kind of my aha moment.
So you just hit on one of the holy grails of investing in real estate altogether, mindset. So many
Yeah.
investors, from beginners to billionaires who we've had on the show, it's all about that mindset and switching that around. I can't afford that to how can I afford that? So I always get excited here because real estate is a people relationship business.
Yes.
So this guy had his buy box down. He presented himself in such a way where you were able to connect to him and say, okay, I'll extend a little trust here and let this guy pick up a few tools on my license, on my slip, right?
Yep.
So at the same time that you were allowing this guy to grow and learn and work on his building, the reciprocation on that is just through these conversations. He
Yep.
talked about mindset and how he looked at things and all that, to the point I'm going to keep making really bad electrician puns here,
Love
where,
it.
where the lights went on and
Yep.
and you said, wait, okay, I get it. I could do this if I just change the way I think.
Absolutely.
And that turned on the lights and switched to everything.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So that was that moment. So I just want to kind of connect the dots here because we get a lot of beginners on the show who maybe went to a meetup or maybe were looking for stocks or investing and maybe stumbled across this show and they're scratching their head saying, well, I don't know about this real estate thing, right? So you grew up new, no real. Well, let me ask the question. Did you have any other influences when you were growing up that were involved with real estate, like an uncle or something like that?
Nope. None.
Okay, so real estate for you started with your buddy, the plumber at the
Yep.
shop. You saw his passive income, and it wasn't later until you had your shingle as a licensed electrician working on an investor's building with the investor, those magic conversations, because investors like to share, but they have to be in that environment where somebody wants to listen. Otherwise, it sounds like they're bragging and then they'll just close up. But if
Correct.
somebody asks the questions and wants to know and wants to learn, like you've seen at so many of these meetups, so many different kinds of investors are happy to share, hey, this is what I've learned. This is what worked. This is what didn't work.
Yep.
All right. So there were no other influences growing up. We've established up to that point the aha moment. Okay. So what happened next from the aha moment?
So from the aha moment, um, since then I had sold my house in Douglas. Um, After I'd moved to Florida, it took some. I put a brand new kitchen in my house. Never got to use it.
Oh, God.
Put the
Yeah.
kitchen in just so I could sell the house, you know. But
Guilty.
um, huh?
Guilty is charged.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Me
Um,
too.
so I had a house in Florida. Um, no longer had that. And so I was at a certain point in my life and I decided it was time to start my journey again. Now, I'm a little later than, some of the guys I meet out there and a little earlier than others. So I try not to beat myself up because I'm 50 at this point and just starting. So
So I don't want to interrupt you. So
go
here
ahead.
you are in Florida. You're 50 and now you're going to ramp up.
Yep,
Okay. And how old are you now?
I'm 50. This was just a few months ago.
Oh, even better.
Yep.
Let's keep going.
Okay. So I decide I need let me change that to I want to uh, build a house for myself and my kids down in Florida. And so I'm thinking to myself, how can I do this? Some life issues have made things a little difficult. My credit wasn't the best. Um, some of the things just weren't falling in place for me to buy a house. So I'm driving around looking for something for a client, and I find a couple of what they call FISBOs, for sale by owners. Okay, two lots. Um, so I call on them, and I said, "How much you selling the lots for?" Because I do that with every FISBO, and they tell me, and we get to talking, and I said, "Oh, well, I'm looking for myself," and he goes, "Okay," and I told him what was happening in my life. I said, "So I'm not currently able to buy, but I said I love the neighborhood, I love the two lots. Would you sell one of them to me and own a finance?" Just And so the guy said, "Well, let me talk to my partner because it's owned by a construction company." And he goes, "I'll get back to you." Figuring there's no way this guy's going to, you know, sell a finance to somebody who doesn't have the credit, blah, blah, blah. 2 days later, he calls me back. He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "My partner's been through the exact same thing you've been through. We're going to do it for you."
There it is, right?
Beautiful.
Well, I mean, your story resonated with somebody else. And you hear that all the time. The stuff that you go through eventually down the path in your life, you're going to meet someone where you've gone through that experience and you're going to be able to lift them up. And because you had the cojones to put it out there into the universe, this guy was able to respond and say, yeah, let's give the guy a break. So what happened next?
Okay. So we got to talking. They built the house two doors down, and they're a high-end builder. And the home that they built just wasn't big enough for their, um, what's the word I'm looking for their company mission statement. The the homes were just going to be too small, so they decided to sell the existing two lots. One was cleared, was one wasn't. I asked for the one that was cleared, but because of something financial, he said they had to sell me the uncleared lot. And turns out, actually, I like that one better because it's got an orchid tree on it. It's got a pretty cool cactus on it. So I'm working on, you know, I'm clearing the lot while I'm waiting for my financing.
Okay.
But anyhow, with the lot, I also got the set of plans for the house, which is what, $8,000 to $10,000 um at value add right there. You know, the fact that I don't have to go to an architect, I have all my drawings.
So was that provided to you from the seller
Yeah.
as part of the deal?
Yep.
So eight to $10,000 added value on top of the lot.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Right. And again, now you talk about you beating a drum. I'm going to beat a drum on this is the mindset. I and I can tell whether you're a real estate investor, a real estate agent, or anything in your life that you do, the biggest stumbling block is you. And just ask. The worst they can do is say no. And um, so I said, okay, how can I get equity in this place while I'm waiting for my construction loan so that I can clear the lot? I can do what my buddy did with me is I called my excavation guy and I said, would you do some work in Florida? And he goes, it's too expensive to drag all my stuff down there. I said, no, 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 no. I fly you down. All we need is a mini because it's all sand down there. And I said, I work as your helper and we'll put in the foundation. And I said, we'll do it in winter when everything's frozen up here up north.
Okay.
And he's like, beautiful. I love it. So there I'm adding value. So the plan is, and I guess we're kind of doing the deep dive now.
Well, that's
Um,
okay. That's
you
okay.
know,
It's your
the,
show.
the plan is by the time I have my construction loan is I'll have my foundation in and my rough plumbing and electrical in the ground in. And same thing, I'm gonna hire a plumber who lets me be his helper for a couple of days while we put in the drain work. I'm gonna do my own wiring. I'm gonna put in the temporary service. And when I have that construction loan, I should have a bunch of equity ready to go. And as a house hack, and moving a step forward, I'm like, how can I house hack this? Because I spend so much time in Massachusetts, I'm in a spot where I can Airbnb it. So I can Airbnb my house while I'm traveling on work. And, it's just, but I had to think of it. I had to learn from people. You know, I had to get out of my own way to figure this out. And
Yeah.
that's
And I have to highlight your growth here because 22, 23 years old, you had the mindset 20% down, buy the house, pay off the mortgage. Now you're looking at this deal, which was just created out of words and having enough courage to speak those words. You got the seller financing, you got the excavation, you've got the plans, and you're building the connections. You got all the moving parts going on here. You're not thinking one dimensionally anymore. You're thinking four dimensionally. What's going on, and adding the perspective of time, where you're building equity as you're waiting for the nod from the
right.
lender.
And I'll take it one step further, is something I learned from the meetup from a guy who did it remotely one time, is to pull the equity out and buy the next property. And so that is my plan is once I do that, pull out the equity, and I'm either going to do one or two things. I have another piece of land down in Central Florida in a community that has golf and boating. So I'm either going to, and I have to do the research on this first, which is going to be the better return for me in the near future, is either build that house as a vacation rental or buy something in the Lakeland area where I am as a rental. So, um,
Okay.
my journey has started, and it's because I've had a number of fantastic people in my life and able to keep this shut, keep these open.
Yeah. We got one mouth and two ears. Use it to
Right.
that. Yeah. Use it to
Yep.
that equivalent and you'll be fine.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
so let me get this straight. You've had the entrepreneurial bug mindset for how many years now?
Oh, I've always wanted to own my own business ever since I was a kid.
Okay,
Yep.
so 30 years?
Yeah, let's say 30 years, sure.
Okay, so 30 years entrepreneurial. And how many years real estate investor?
Um, well, let's say my journey is just beginning in that really over the last year, but I've wanted to do it since sitting in the break room with my plumber buddy, you know. It just
Okay,
took me 30 years to get there.
that's fine. And um, I've met people in my 28 years doing this, all the way from like 17-year-old kids to 79-year-old guys who'd been retired. Um, Not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but Jan Saltzman had the biggest impact on me. We sat down, we're at one of these seminar events, and we have lunch together. And I'm just talking to this guy. He's really approachable, really nice guy. I says, Jan, at 79 years old, why are you picking up the torch and getting started all over again? He said, well, first, because I'm staying at home driving my wife, Sandy, crazy. And
Yeah,
it's because he loved the game and he had been retired for so long. I said, and you always ask that question, right? What would you have done differently? And we're going to ask that question on you just a little bit here. I asked him, Jan, what would you have done differently? He says, well, I never, I would have gone bigger faster. You always hear an investor say that. I would
yeah.
have gone bigger faster. And then I always like to ask the second question, well, what else would you have done differently? And he looked at me square and he says, I never would have retired.
Really?
I says, Jan, what do you mean? He says, because when he was an investor, he was hard money and building and flips and all kinds of stuff. He was elbows deep in real estate. He said, when I retired, I lost my network and I lost
Mm,
my people. And then when I came back at my age, some of my people were gone. Some of my people had passed on. Some of their business was gone. So I had to start from zero to build my network all over again. And I'd never forgot that. He said, go bigger, faster. And for him, he loved it. He said he would never, if he could have done it different, he would have never retired.
and so let me ask you this because I'm going to tell you what I think about it. The
Yeah.
word retire, okay? Because I've had this conversation with people. I'm giving myself 10 years at 60 to retire. And people are like, well, starting from nothing, that's pretty aggressive. And I said, of course. But what I consider retiring isn't what most people consider retiring. What I consider retiring is doing it on my terms. Okay. And that's having my properties and I go around and take care of them or talk to my management company and take care of them or however that is, you know. Um, it's retirement to me isn't just hanging it up and collecting Social Security. It's doing what I want to do on my terms. And I was curious what you thought about that.
I think you have hit something that a lot of people don't realize when they're thinking about retirement. Like so many people hit retirement and now it's a couch, a remote, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and Steve Harvey Family Feud. I love you, Mom. If you're watching this, I'll see you. I'll see you tonight. But
Yeah.
yeah, and that's retirement. But my brother Paul put it the best. When he retired, he said the biggest realization for him when he retired is you had a job that gave you a purpose and your time was just sucked up throughout the week, the days, the months, the years. And then when you retired, it creates a huge vacuum of time. It's like, what do I do with my time? So you have the vision and what you said that no, no, no. I'm going to create that vacuum of time and fill it with what I want to do as an investor. So you're always going to have 24 hours in a day, but are you making somebody else rich following their operations? Or are you stepping back saying, okay, if money wasn't an object and I could do whatever I wanted to do every day, what would that be?
Yep, exactly.
So you've planned retirement where some people say, okay, 65, I'm going to stop working. That's Jan Salzman. He drove himself crazy looking for stuff to do, exhausted everything. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Woke up one morning and said, where was my passion? Where was that juice? Where was that? I want to get out of bed and get started. And it was real estate for him. And the advice I got from that gentleman years and years ago, if he would have done things different, he wouldn't have retired. He would have kept doing what he loved and what his passion was. So you've identified your passion and now you've got the goal ahead. Okay, you're 1 year as investor and you're already have your sights set on okay, I want the golden ring and I want to I want to spin this world around on my terms.
Yep. And if you love what you do, you really don't work a day in your life, right?
Yeah, I was texting someone. They contacted me saying, "Look, I'm so sick of my job. I want to get into Airbnb and this and that." And I'm thinking, well, that's not the reason to get into Airbnb. You got to get into Airbnb because you just love and are passionate about Airbnb, not
Yep.
because you hate what you're doing.
Correct.
You got to find out what you love, get really good at it, and then the money will follow. And,
Yep.
people hear that and say, oh, no, I can't do that. I got to make a living and pay my bills. Well, then you choose the prison you are in. And
Yep.
that's pretty harsh, but like my prison has a view of the ocean. I still work, but that is my reality that I chose. If I choose not to take that risk and work for Joe Corporate and my reality is a cubicle, I chose that.
Right. And you know what? That's fine for a lot of people. There were a lot of people I worked with, great people I met over the years, at the factory. And actually, later on, the factory became a different factory and they were a client. And people would love to just come in, work their 8 hours, take their two breaks and their lunch, and go home. And that's great. But that just isn't me, you know?
That's
For
okay.
some people that works being a W-2, and everybody needs a place. And for that, for me, that's not my place. I know where my place is, and now I'm actively working to get there.
Yeah, I would never turn anybody away who wants the information, but this platform that I've created on the show here is to share what I've learned, you know, when I've lost a limb stepping on a landmine. Don't do that. Avoid that.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
these things. And, I get folks on the show like you and other people on the show, and they're sharing, the good, the bad, and the ugly of their journey. And you can do this. You can do this. I mean, I never graduated art school thinking I would have a portfolio of property, living on a beach, and of all things, producing a podcast where I could help others, follow the path of investors like yourself.
Yep.
So
Um,
I'm going to
Go ahead.
jump into the time machine here for you.
Okay.
And this one's going to be a little dynamic because we've got a 30-year head start before the starting gun of 1 year. But let's just go for it, right? So
Okay.
this part of the show, it's two questions. The first, I'm going to ask if you could tap yourself on the shoulder for you maybe 30 years ago, what advice would you have given to yourself starting over? And then fast forward to today, you've got a plan, you've got a vision, you've got a mission. What advice would you give to that newbie who's sitting on the fence thinking, real estate? Really? So let's start with you. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself starting over?
That one is very easy. Instead of buying the single family home, I would have told myself to buy a multifamily and live in it.
Why?
Um, to start what I wanted to be my real estate journey. So that would, jump me from the multifamily, then to my single family, and then buying more multifamilies. And I could have easily been financially independent, 10 years ago.
Actually, I don't think it would have taken you 10 years.
Probably not. No, probably not.
Yeah, you hit something right there with the multifamily, and that's one of the reasons I think multifamily is one of the best asset classes. For me, for my journey, I bought my first multifamily, just a small triple decker. That's a New England thing. Refinanced it twice, bought two more, took those, refinanced those, and bought two more. So for my one first initial down payment, I leveraged out to get $1.2 million worth of real estate, and I never looked back. It's like, yeah, I can do this. It was just small little stacking up. And
Yep.
the one thing not many people realize, when you refinance cash out, that's not income. You're not taxed on it.
Excellent.
So here we are. You're tapping yourself on the shoulder, buy multifamily and live in it. What else is the rest of the plan there? How do you make that work?
Um, I would say very similar to what Andrew did. And that's, work the W-2 for maybe 10 years. So you've got yourself a nice nest egg. And then meanwhile, you keep investing in your multifamilies. And now you've essentially made yourself, now you can retire, what I consider retiring. You take care of your buildings. Um, and I got a quick aside. Dear childhood friend of mine, his dad owned a number of multi-units. And when I started business for myself, I did his electrical work. And one day I'm over at one of the buildings and he's got a bunch of scratch tickets in his hand. And I said, "What do you got the scratch tickets for, Johnny?" He goes, "Watch." So he goes around to all 18 units, and if they pay, they get a $2 scratch ticket. And because he's back then, there were no portals or anything like that. He knocked on your door, you gave him a check of cash, and that was that. And so I said, "Why do you do that?" He goes, "It's simple." He goes, "My rate of collection went from, I think, 70 to 72% to like 96%." And he goes, "It cost me $36 a month if everybody pays."
Wow.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Wow. Now my wheels are spinning. It's like, right? Could I do some type of survey or something like that? Or, you know, pick a name out of a hat. Years and years ago, we used to do the 10 of the month and it was like a Walmart gift card or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
But
There's all sorts of one other client of mine. If you had a 2-year lease and you paid all 24 months and you re-upped, he would paint a wall. He gave you 5 or 6 things he would do at your apartment. Paint one of the rooms, give you a new dishwasher if it was crappy or something like that. And you know what he was doing? He was just fixing up his own asset.
right, right.
But
That I mean, yeah,
the tenant perceives it as, wow, this guy's great.
He's taking care of me
Yeah,
and himself.
right.
So I do want to put a little asterisk on that. This investor was collecting rent in advance,
No, he would go on the first every month.
but you said, and I want to make sure I understand this because that's what flagged me here. If you did the lease or paid him a year in advance, or what exactly was the deal there?
Oh, are you talking about the guy who would paint the room?
Yeah.
Oh, so if you not if you paid every month on time
Okay.
and you weren't late, and then you re-upped a new lease, and I don't know if it was 1 year or two, I don't remember,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it doesn't matter. But if you had paid on time every month for the duration of the lease, and you renewed for another year, 2 years, or whatever, he would give you the opportunity to pick out of basically this box of things that he would do for you at your apartment,
That's right out of Mr. Landlord, Jeffrey
right?
Taylor. Yeah. So what what I heard, and I'm glad I asked, this is a little side golden nugget for anybody in Massachusetts. Under Mass General Law 18615B, you can only collect first, last security and a lock set fee. So we've had tenants before say, look, if you give me the apartment, I'll give you 6 months in advance. And I adamantly say, no, I can't do that.
My broker doesn't allow us to do that in Florida either.
Yeah, it's just, it's, it's messy
It is
and
too messy. Absolutely, Brian.
yeah, and,
Yep.
and it's against the law in Massachusetts. So I just wanted to clarify that what I thought I heard is not what I heard.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
if you're watching this, don't do that.
No.
Okay, so any other advice you would have given yourself starting over?
Um, that's really it. I didn't learn how to network until 2007. I think I would teach myself how to network earlier
Yeah,
and
that's
build my
good.
network. Um, and the networking thing came randomly. I was at the transfer station, and some guy said, "Hey, do you want to grow your business?" And it was right after Lehman Brothers fell,
Oh,
and so things were tight. And I said, "Sure." And I went to this networking event and never looked back. And and now that's um, networking. Honestly, is my biggest lead generation for my real estate clients. Buying leads, I believe, is useless. You know, through Zillow or through all the Realtor.com. The quality of those leads are terrible. I find the leads I get going to networking events, talking to people, shaking hands in person, um, has done me much better than just sitting around waiting for somebody to give me something off the internet.
as a testament to that, here we are, right?
Right. Exactly.
We met at a meetup,
Yep.
had a conversation, person to person, face to face. I liked your story. You liked my story. I invited you to the show, and now you're going to have all this video and footage that you can give to your social media guru and have him do all those Andrew Freed clips that Andrew's always like out there, real estate investor guy.
He is great at that.
Yeah, and he's got a team of people who do it, but now here you are getting your footage. Why? Because we had a conversation,
Yep.
because we networked.
Yep.
Okay, so now you have 30 years experience as an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to that newbie who's starting out today?
So I'm going to think back to the last meeting we were at, and there were two women who came up to me after I stood up and introduced myself as the Florida agent. And I believe they talked to you afterwards. And one of them, um, it doesn't matter what her name was. I don't do that type of thing. But she come to me and she said, "I want to start my real estate journey." She goes, "I lived in the Tampa area for 15 years. Are you able to help me?" I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "I can help you through through your journey," because she said, "I'm just starting, I don't know where to start." I said, "Absolutely, let me help you." But I said, "The one thing I'm going to tell you right now is keep coming back.
Let me back you up on that, right?
Sure.
When you go to that networking event the first time, you don't know anybody, nobody knows you. And it takes a while. It takes months. You start to talk to people in the room, you find out who the players are, they find
Yep.
out through the players who you are, and eventually you get accepted into the tribe, right? And like you said to this woman, keep going back. And it may take 6 months or a year, and then that's it. You're one of our people. You're part of our tribe, and now they will open up to you. Maybe you get that pocket listing. Maybe you get that deal, but you have to show up. You have to be there.
Yes. And the first time you go to one of those events, it's like the junior high dance in the church basement, Brian. You're standing in the corner, drinking your punch, and you don't know who the hell to talk to, you know? And I was the same way. And through the years, and I'll use the Worcester meetup as the thing, I didn't know a lot of people, and through the years, now people recognize me, and the first thing, hey, how's Florida? And
Yeah,
the speakers, Jesse, I know, Bruno and Marco and Andrew and Leo, and not only have I met great contacts, but I've met great people there too.
yeah,
You know, and and that's important as well as the people you're networking with to just like you say, they want to share with you. Everybody wants to, even though they're competing against each other. I don't compete up in mass, but they're also helping each other out as well.
yeah. And I think that's ingrained into us because all of us, like to use martial arts, we all start with a white belt.
Yeah,
And somebody's got to show you that first punch or that kick. And eventually you get the yellow belt. And the whole thing about martial arts is eventually you have the privilege to become the teacher. And that's a privilege, right? When you learn a
absolutely.
chop or when you learn a technique or something like that, when you can share it to that newbie or that white belt that's coming in, that it's, I can't pinpoint the exact emotional feeling. It's not so much like I've arrived, but it's like, okay, I finally matter enough that I can contribute. You're not standing on the wall at the junior high dance watching the crystal disco ball. Now you're John Travolta. You got a couple moves. You got your white jacket, right? And you get to show somebody a few moves. And then that person learns a few moves, a few techniques, and they get to the point where they've accumulated enough knowledge. And it's like, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could share this with someone? And I think that's the perpetual thing about real estate investors, because none of us were born with a tape measure in our hands or a calculator in the other hand who knew the whole ropes. We all started somewhere and we all got our scars, bruises, and the shot glass and t-shirt.
Yes, it's funny. My boss at the factory, um, yeah, say he was probably in his late 50s, early 60s when I was, that teenage kid. Um, I always asked him how he knew so much. Like how do you know so much about the trade? He could bend a piece of pipe with just looking at it, and it was amazing. And I asked him one day, how do you know so much? And he looked at me, and now this is 30 something years ago, and I still remember it to this day, and I still use this to this day, whether it's in my electrical business or my real estate business. And he simply said, I don't know everything. I know I'm smart enough to know what I don't know and to know where to go find the answers.
Yeah.
And I was like, poof, wow. And I've used that, and I've tried not to be so arrogant that if I don't know something, my contacts down in Florida, I have a great title company. I have a great home inspector I work with.
Yeah.
The home inspector and I call each other all the time. He calls me on inspections, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll call him about something else, and same thing with the title company. Because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a title company. That's
Yeah.
not my specialty. But if I have a question, I'm smart enough to pick up the damn phone and know to call them and ask them.
That's right. That's
you
right.
know.
So you've been really doling out the gold here for yourself and for the newbies. Any other advice you would give to that newbie who's on the fence about real estate?
Um, just keep networking and get out of your own way. Don't let your own mindset block you. I can't stress that enough. People will tell you you can't. Um, don't listen to them. Who was it? Henry Ford who said, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right.
That's correct.
That's another one I love. I tell my daughter that all the time, my 10-year-old. I said, you say you can't do it, you're right. You say you can, you're right. You know?
Yeah, I think it was in Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill talks about some trial that Henry Ford was on where a newspaper called him ignorant. So he sued the newspaper and they were trying to cut him up to shreds, ask him all these questions to show how smart he wasn't. And he just got to a point and says, look, I've tolerated all your silly ass questions for the last 4 hours. I have a control panel on my desk where I can push a button and get any question I want answered by a professional who knows what the heck they're doing. So I don't have time to answer all your silly questions. I have a network of people who will give me the answers I need when I need them.
Awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah. All right. So that was pretty good. Thanks for sharing. We're gonna go back to your deep dive here. You
Okay.
gave us a little taste of it, so let's formally introduce it as a question here. What's the best deal you've ever done? What type of property was it? How did you find it? And how did you finance it?
Okay. So the best deal was the one I was previously talking about it. We'll call it Dorothy Street, or as I joke with my kids, I call it Fruit Tree Nation. My daughter and I planted a little fruit tree on there, so now I call it Fruit Tree Nation as a nickname. And again, how did I find it? I was driving around looking for properties for a fellow electrician slash investor down in Florida. Um, Guy who has just become a dear friend, a great client, and a hell of an ally. And
Okay.
so he was looking for something. I was driving around and I found these two lots for sale by owner, because not all deals, as we all know, are found on the MLS. In fact, on the MLS, it's really tough to find a deal per se. Um, so sometimes you gotta drive for dollars. You know, that's what I was doing. I was driving around town. We were killing some time, and I found these two lots up by my daughter's school. I called on them and I said, "Here's the deal. I can give you 25% down, but I need the rest financed." And so again, as previous, they said, "We'll think about it." And he came back and he said, "Yep, we'll finance it." And that has turned into a partnership as well, because those gentlemen want to sit down with me and use me. They have their own agent. I know their agent. Their agent is top notch guy in Florida, in Lakeland area. Um, Actually, he's the guy I call when I have ethical questions. He is the what I call the king of ethics in Lakeland. So I know they got a good agent, but there's other ways I can help them via the trades or managing projects or whatever. So we're starting a venture, well, a conversation. We're starting a conversation for something in the future. But anyhow, so they're financing it. I've started making my payments, and I've started making my business plan, as we can call it, to to get the financing. I'm working with my loan guy on a time frame, and ideally I'd like to have it paid off, so I only have to finance the construction part, not just the land. So um, I've given myself an 18-month uh, timeline to get that paid off and get the foundation in. That's where I was telling you, where fly my buddy down, get the foundation in, and have all that paid for when I walk in to ask for the construction loan.
Nice, nice. So it was two lots. You found it by a
No, it
drive-by.
was just one lot. I just bought one of the lots.
Okay, so you drove by, saw two, made the deal on one.
Correct. Yep.
And this was just a drive-by looking for
That's it.
a fellow investor. And then how did you finance it? You had to put 25% down and seller finance the rest. If you don't mind me asking, what was the amount of the 25% down?
Was $20,000.
20K.
Yep. The lot sold for 77.5.
Okay, not bad, not bad. And you control the lot now because it's tied up with a contract.
Correct. It's in my name on the property appraiser's website. It is my lot.
So at 25% down, you control 100% of the asset.
Correct. Yep. They hold no interest other than the note.
Not bad
Right?
at all.
Right?
And at the same time, we don't know the market value where it's going to go, but it doesn't matter because at 25% down, you've got way enough hedge to cover whichever way the market's going to go. And if it goes up,
Yep.
it's only wonderful. If it goes down, you're hedged enough where you're not bleeding.
Correct.
18 month, you've worked the deal with the excavator, you've got other equity going on. Do you think the land value has gone up? Well, it's only been a year, hard to say.
No, so I check it periodically, and lots in that area are selling between, let's say, 85 and 100. So I'm above water, definitely.
Okay.
Maybe not a ton, but I am definitely above water.
I'm going to just throw a little tape measure in the water here. Well, you've picked up in equity what your down payment was.
Right. Yep.
So if you're looking at it that way, you've got control of this property by asking for it
Pretty much.
because the asset itself appreciated enough that you've got that equity back already
Right.
in 1 year.
Right.
When are you buying the next lot?
So I bought the second lot.
I was
I
kidding, but here we go.
So I bought the second lot that we'll call that Alligator Nation.
Okay.
Um, I bought that a couple of months ago, I believe, and um, that was it was that's a long journey that's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go down too much, but
Okay.
it's in a community that has golf and a lake, so the community is in between Lakeland and the East Coast. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And for years, the land wasn't, there was only a few houses in the community. But now, last time I went down there, building has just exploded. So that piece of land has increased in value. I get offers on that all the time since I bought it. In fact, the day I recorded it, 2 days later, I had somebody had mailed me in my Massachusetts address offering me twice what I paid for it. So,
Wow.
yeah, so, kind of right place, right time for that one. And, once we get the other house built, whether I build that vacation rental or like I say, buy something income producing, which I think I'll probably do first because I want the cash flow first, you know, because to build something it takes but realistically with delays and all that it takes 8 months to a year to build something down there. So
Well, I can tell you, I like that story a lot.
ha 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 ha, I love dad jokes.
Yeah, I
Love it.
can't help myself. I'm just punning out today. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So you picked up 100. You have 100% return on investment, maybe a little bit better because I clocked it out at 22,500. You're 20K down. So in a year, you had an investment that over 100% return. The Alligator Alley, I believe you called it,
Yep.
was 2 days later would have been 100% return. So I can't even calculate that over 365
And
days.
that's paid for. That piece of land is completely paid for.
Wow.
So I own that outright.
And what did you pay for that lot?
That lot I paid $10,000 for,
Oh man.
and it's a full acre where most lots in that community are half an acre.
So if building is going up in that area, you're maybe a year or two away from seeing that go to 100.
I would say at least 50. Yeah, at least 50.
Well, that's a 500% return on investment.
Yeah. Yep.
And I say it in every show, why not? Why would you not do this? Right?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? So, what is the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as an investor, and how did you solve it?
Um, so honestly was, and I don't want to go too much into this, but my divorce. My divorce left me with basically nothing.
Yeah.
And so um turning that around and rebuilding, and it's not just the money, it's the credit score that's just as important, you know? And I was left with a lot of debt and all that. As they say in football, I got a lot of dead cap on the books, and so I've worked my ass off to get that's almost done. The credit score is coming up, and that's what's going to be most important to um, moving forward on my real estate journey is that credit score and the cash flow.
And you do it one transaction at a time.
That's it. Yep.
Yep, it takes time. Like I said, been there, got the shot glass and the t-shirt back when I was in my 20s. And yeah, I went through a painful situation. My credit was destroyed, and I couldn't even get a car loan for $3,000 for about 7 or 8 years. But
Yep.
it turns around. So if you're in that boat right now watching this, just give yourself some time, be patient, and stay diligent. You will get to the other side of that river.
It is. I can tell you, it is hard to see the forest through the trees sometimes. And again, advice giving out to the audience: just hang in there, chin up. It will get better. That's the biggest thing. And it goes back to mindset. I keep beating that drum. You know, and I think we all go through a process. You have your dark days for a while, but you know it turns around and it gets better. And I'm thrilled. I have two beautiful daughters because of my marriage, and I couldn't ask for anything better.
Well, and now you're building a legacy that you could probably teach them and show them, and maybe that can go down to your grandchildren someday.
Yep, exactly.
So you mentioned mindset, and I think it was the Waltham. Where did we meet physically?
Westboro.
Westboro. It was at Chin Sung's event,
Yes, coffee and pie.
Coffee and Pie. Yes. And
Yep.
I like to do this little thing when I'm in person. I like to do giveaways, and if you
Yep.
answer a question, I think you got one of the first books that I gave away.
The second one. I got the second one.
What
And
book did you end up with?
oh, I don't remember. It's out in the car.
That's a
I
good
don't.
place for it there, Mike.
Yeah. Well, because I'm working on something else right now.
Okay.
I'm working on the two guys, and they were at the meetup. It was they hosted it one time. They're out in the Springfield area, and they wrote a book about foreclosures
Okay.
and their experience with foreclosures. And aside from the real estate knowledge that comes from it, just some of their stories are very, very interesting as, as to what they've gone through dealing with um, foreclosures and how they've gotten them, how they managed them, how they turned them around, the good, the bad, and there was some ugly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's probably not always the property. The ugly gets down into the emotions when you're dealing with the people. That's where it
Absolutely.
counts.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just as guilty because I can't recall what three books I brought to that event either. But I like to ask these questions. I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I've got a book over there. I got a book over there. I always travel with a book because I never know when I'm going to have some downtime where I can absorb. So, is there a book that had the biggest impact on you as a real estate investor?
Okay. So I have three books for you.
Give me
The
one at a
first
time.
one, yep, the first one is a cop out. It's the one everybody on the podcast says, and that's The Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
You know, anybody who's getting into or thinking about getting into or just wants a hell of a book to read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know,
Yeah. And
because
that book, I think what it does is it shifts the paradigm of mindset and helps you understand the difference between a liability and an asset.
exactly, yep. And actually, that book is kind of where I came up with the idea to house hack, the house I'm going to build because and I learned in that book where your home is a liability. So I thought to myself, how can I change that to move it from a liability to an asset? And with my travel, I said, Airbnb, let's Airbnb it while you're out of town. You
Yeah.
know,
And
so
if you chewed on it a little longer, you'd probably find a couple other ways as well.
absolutely, not
Hmm.
done with that property yet.
Hmm. So is there a second book that had an impact on you as an investor?
Yes, and this is a book I read probably working at the factory years ago. It's called First Down and a Billion, and I forget who writes it. It is basically about a guy who bought the San Diego Chargers back in the day and how he leveraged money. He worked for an insurance company or some sort of company like that, and he was the little guy, and he was able to buy one of the big conglomerates. And the book took you through the journey of how this little company bought this huge company, and then I believe he went on to buy the San Diego Chargers.
Hmm.
And it's a hell of a book. I'll send you the author. It's down in when I go down to Florida. I'll send you a screen picture of it.
Sure. And I'm sure I'll be able to dig it up on Amazon and I'll get the credits down in the tags underneath for this episode. And I love going the stretch here. Is there a third book that you would recommend?
And this is an oldie from way back. Is I really enjoyed Lee Iacocca's biography. Again, businessman. I love that. That's another thing. I love following these. Jack Welch from GE. Jamie Dimon. All these guys. Their paths through business. And Lee Iacocca's from, being an engineer on the Mustang project, I believe, to taking the K car to where it went. You
Wow.
know, um, I thought that was a really interesting book as well.
So you've given us some gems here, and two of these I've never had on the show before. I've got on my bookshelf Elon Musk's autobiography, and I just haven't had enough time to dig through that one. It's a pretty sizable book there. Um, you mentioned Jack Welch. I got to give props out to Thomas Paine. Tom, if you're out there watching the show, I remember this. You told me this. He used to be a caddy at a golf club, resort, whatever you call these things, and he used to caddy for Jack Welch.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so I guess he got some tips and some stories that I can't repeat here, But yeah, and my buddy Tom, he was a real estate peep for a while as well. Uh, no idea what he's doing now, but I wish him all the best. But you mentioned Jack Welsh, and I wanted to share that story from my buddy Tom Payne.
That's
So
awesome.
you've got some interesting avenues ahead of you here. I definitely see some forks in the road. You're going to have some decisions to make, and it's going to be interesting to see where your trajectory brings you. So, what's next for you, and why not get started today?
Um, what's next for me is well, I'm working and this is not really part of my gig, but it's through my network, is a possible wholesale deal up here in Massachusetts with a client who has something he wants to get rid of, but he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to put it on the market. And I just happened to reach out to him because I put him on my list of people to reach out to, and I knew that property was sitting there. And I'm not big into the wholesaling, but I said, why not? If you can,
What kind of property is it?
it is a development for houses without any houses, but the
Okay.
groundwork is all in. The roads in, the 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 drainage, all the site works in. So I don't know how many lots. I don't know the particulars. He's out of the country right now, so when he gets back, we're going to sit down and go through it so I can make up a packet to send out to investors and see
So
if
it's I learned this on one of the shows. It's shovel ready.
yes, it is shovel ready.
Shovel ready. That means everything's all set, ready to go, packaged up for a developer.
Exactly.
So if you're a developer on this show, reach out to Mike. He may have a wholesale for you. Happy to
Yep.
put that out there in the universe.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So this is the curveball question that's not on your script and you don't know it's coming unless you've watched a couple of shows. What's the question I didn't ask you today that you thought I should have asked you today?
Oh shit. Oh sorry.
That's
You
okay.
know,
We can say sorry.
it's it's funny because I told myself to prepare for this and I didn't.
That's okay.
Um, what's the question you should have asked me? Ah, I guess, you asked me what I did wrong, you asked me what I did right, and kind of everything there in between. Um, I guess, boy, that's a tough one. I guess asking me about maybe about where the electrical and the real estate combined, maybe we could have maybe dove into that a little more where they intersect, where those two trades intersect.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I mean, you told me a little bit about it, that investor who had the 1718 unit wanted to do some of the work. That's kind of seemed where it started to gel. But let me ask that question. What was the transition, or how did you conduit or conduct from electrical to real estate? And you like the way I did the little dad joke in there.
Yes, I did see that. So where they intersect a lot is, your home inspection obviously is where the two meet up immediately. Um, where where I was an electrician and saw a lot of the real estate is doing work for those property managers, good, bad, and ugly. Um, doing work for private landlords, doing work for real estate agents. I do work for a lot of real estate agents. I get a lot of panicked. I need smoke detectors.
Oh yeah.
The inspection is tomorrow. We failed. Help. You know? And an interesting thing in Florida, they do not have smoke certificates and they don't have Title V.
Because there's no basements.
Well, they do have septics. Some just like we do. If you're out in the country, you have a septic. but it's your option to have it inspected. And smoke detectors, it is not a requirement. New builders, they put them in, but they put them in the wrong spot. They put them in the back corner instead of near the door. And I helped a family from up north. They did a new build in Claremont. And I walked through. I was there every month checking on the progress. And I said, I don't want the smoke detectors in the back corners. And he's like, well, that's where we put them down here. And I said, no. And we went back and forth. And I said, look, I said, you haven't started roughing it yet. I said, it's going to take you literally no time at all to change it how I want it. I said, or you can listen to me bitch at you for the next 8 months. I got them where I wanted.
Yeah.
You got to represent your clients feverishly, you know?
8 months or 8 minutes, pick one.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why they put the smokes in the back corner because by the time the smoke gets to that detector, you've already become overcome by the smoke and you can't get out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was the biggest thing I thought was strange about Florida is they have no smoke certificates and
Hmm.
no requirements.
Interesting.
Yep.
So here we are. Did you have fun, Mike?
Oh, I loved it, Brian. It was such an honor to come on and talk with somebody I consider just a titan of our industry.
Well, I thank you for that, but I put on my shoes one leg at a time too. So so this has been great. You've told us a lot of your story. You gave us a lot of inspirational stuff for anyone who's a newbie out there to, just take action, get out there, show up, keep coming, and
Yep.
be there. So if anyone, maybe they're looking to purchase in Florida or, want to reach out to you, or maybe that wholesale deal or any other thing they may have heard in this show, how should our viewers who are listening to this today, how would you want them to get in touch with you?
Easiest way is to do something a lot of real estate agents don't do. Pick up the phone and call me. My number is 508-341-2794. And I do answer. If I don't answer, I'll get back to you very shortly. My phone is with me at all times. And my email is for the electrical, it's very simple. It's my last name, boothbyelectric@gmail.com. And for the real estate, it's mboothby@adachomesteam.com. And we are in the middle of building a website. So if you go to adachhomes.com, you will see that we are building our website.
Perfect. Maybe it'll be up by the time this episode launches. Mike, this has been fun. I've enjoyed getting to hear more of your story. I mean, we hook up every now and then when we get to
Yes,
chat for a couple of minutes, but this has been nice. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do.
absolutely. I loved every minute of it. I could sit here for another 3 hours and do it.
Well, I've actually got another episode starting in 45 minutes, so I'll have to take you up on that.
Okay.
Um, okay, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, all my peeps and fans. My guest today, Mr. Michael Boothby. Mike,
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good luck, everybody. Call me if you want to talk about Florida real estate, or call me if you just have any questions. Remember, mindset, get out there, network, get out of your own head.
what a perfect ending to another show. All my real estate peeps, real estate investors, and rock stars. This is Brian Lucier from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.